let's bring the panel up. Let's have a massive round of applause.
Hello, I'm Charlotte. So I'm Creative Wilderness, which is an ethical branding and design studio. It's been going about 5 years now. Before that, I had quite a varied career. I was a musician, worked in agencies, did a bit of teaching, went freelance, and then I just got to the point where I really wanted to start my own agency, studio I suppose I should call it, and I got all the time working in agencies. I used to get frustrated with the waste that was going on, the kind of unethical marketing practices, and there was just always a feeling of like wanting to do more, sell more and that, and I really didn't like that. So when I started my agency, I wanted to work with people who didn't have that ethos, so it was more of a collaboration. A lot of the time clients were seen as like an enemy at design agencies, and I didn't want it to feel like that at all. So I've been really blessed to work with some really inspiring businesses, from like zero waste shampoo bars, kind of people selling online, microbes from the soil, probiotic brands, all that type of thing. And it's been really inspiring, but the branding isn't obviously about making the products look good, it's also really embedding sustainability from the very start. So looking at how we can be circular in the packaging, how we can reduce packaging, and also encouraging people to kind of buy less, because the most sustainable choice is actually to buy less things. So obviously you're going to charge more for your sustainable products. So it's really creating those brand experiences that people connect with and they're kind of just drawn to. And it's, yeah, I've learned so much from the people that I've worked with and constantly innovating. The past few years have been really inspiring because, similar with the seaweed, we've got lots of biomimicry going on, so we can use much more sustainable things than paper. And I'm really excited about my studio as well and all that sort of thing. So yeah, lots of exciting things to discuss.
Hi, I'm Liz and I'm from Creative Concern. So I'm the head of design over there. Creative Concern, to those of you who don't know, is a sustainable communications agency. We're based in Manchester. There's 25 of us now, but yeah, it's our 20th anniversary this year, which is pretty crazy. So I've been there 15 years, so that gives you a bit of a clue about how old I am. But yeah, the agency itself has been was set up by two guys, Steve Connor and Chris Desson, who met at the Vegetarian Society, and it was really the kind of their vision, basically, because 20 years ago there wasn't very many people communicating about sustainability and ethics. So back then, you know, it wasn't really a thing, or at least it wasn't doing very well. So they had this vision to basically work with ethical brands and enterprises and environmental organisations and basically give them the voice that they deserve. You know, we've grown a lot over 20 years in terms of size of the agency, but also in terms of like the breadth of the work that we do as well. So originally it started off very much like in an environmental space, but now we kind of broadened our scope a little bit, and we work a lot with charities and people who are kind of more on the sort of social good spectrum, really. But yeah, I'm basically me myself. I'm a graphic designer, so that's kind of where I come in. But yeah, at Creative Concern, we're pretty small, we're only like 25 of us. We all kind of look in and do a bit of everything. So, and we are all, we like to think we are all ethically minded as well.
Great, thank you. Let's do a one line again. So, what's on the top of your kind of ethical agenda right now? What's going on in your world? Whoever wants to go first.
Hello? Yeah. Packaging. So I've given out some paper and card, which is made out of byproducts of seaweed, so 30% seaweed. So you could have 100% seaweed, which I know that company that I got that from is making at the moment. Trees and like recycle card as well. There's a massive issue with, obviously we need to stop cutting down ancient rainforests, and we need to stop cutting down like trees in general. So we need an alternative resource such as seaweed, which is in massive abundance, not only because it just grows like everywhere in the sea, obviously, but in terms of like they farm seaweed for pharmaceuticals and things like toothpaste, and the byproduct of seaweed is like this massive wasted product, and they could make it into paper. Which would be amazing to talk to you about if you're speaking to other brands who, because I'm looking to develop the card and the paper side of stuff with seaweed. Yeah. So, yes, that's like a massive agenda, I think, because the amount of people, you know, the amount of stuff that we order online and things like that, you know, Amazon orders or whatever, the card and paper and the packaging waste is humongous as well. Yeah. So that's a big agenda for us. And seaweed again has like the answer really. So.
Awesome.
I think on the side of that, a few years ago we didn't have as much greenwashing, but everyone's kind of jumping on the bandwagon. So you'll see bigger brands saying that their packaging is biodegradable, and biodegradable is a term that you have to be quite kind of wary of, because some things can biodegrade in 100 years, which isn't great. So everything that can kind of be put back into the land, compostable, is much better, and it costs a little bit more money. So smaller brands they care about the environment, but it's kind of getting people to understand that the green terms aren't always as green as they seem, and I'm really now passionate about using, like, nature has all the answers. That's what I always try and focus on. So like what's in abundant in nature, what can we use? Like I said, mycelium, there's so many amazing things coming out there. There's a company in London that are developing chairs and products from mycelium. Unfortunately, they're not at the stage of packaging yet, and I spoke to them and they just said, we haven't got the capacity, we haven't got the orders coming in. But I think in a year or two we'll be seeing mycelium and other plant kind of forms that are in abundance, that are easier for us to harvest. And I work with a brand and they make vitamins from the sea, so they use algae and things like that again are in abundance. So instead of having to use synthesized vitamins, they're taking it from things that we've got, and they're not taking from nature, because algae kind of regenerates itself. It's got compostable and all that stuff, so we can kind of give back to the land, and it's not as wasteful. Even if we recycle stuff, remember, a tree's been chopped down to make that envelope, so it's kind of thinking about, okay, I'm recycling it, but there's still a lot of kind of waste going in. When I work with brands now, it's about thinking circularly. So can we send it back? Can we refill stuff? Can we kind of reuse stuff, as opposed to it's buying something new all the time? So I'm excited to explore that.
And just to build on that, actually, we're working with a company called Spiber. I don't know if you've heard of them, but they we're doing their sustainability report at the moment. And Spiber are a company who use spider silk to make all this amazing stuff. I mean, it's absolutely bonkers. They're talking about actually being able to make food out of spider silk, proteins and things like that. It's just incredible. So there's a lot of good people doing good things out there, really interesting. But I think, personally for me, as a creative concern, like top of our agenda really is, because obviously we're visual communicators, it's about basically making things a bit easier to understand, because I think there's a lot of jargon out there, and that creates a lot of barriers basically to people either producing products or people choosing to consume differently. It's just bonkers, like, the fact that we've got these things called SDGs, which are like, what's that? Sustainable Development Goals. Why does it have to be so complicated? Why is the climate change conference called COP26? What does COP stand for? It's just insane. Just say what it is. It's not that we're all stupid. It's just that we don't have the time to kind of figure out all this scientific nonsense. Just tell us in layman's terms. So that would be high on my agenda.
So I was wondering what kind of design strategies you had for convincing people to buy something sustainable that's going to cost more.
Well, the problem we've got obviously is people have been used to things costing what they shouldn't. Clothes, products, everything. So sustainable brands, there's a bit of an education involved. So one of the shampoo brands I work with, they sort of show, okay, our product costs, £7 to £10, but actually this is going to last you 5 months. So, and also it's actually you don't need to wash your hair as many times, so there's kind of other benefits, so it's sort of educating them on that way, but also making you feel good when you buy it. So I feel it's consciously consumers living now, instead of just buying something, it's the cheapest thing I can buy, that you might actually not really enjoy using, it's not doing good for the planet. So I think it's letting people know that, okay, it does cost more, the benefits behind it, but also that you're going to feel good and you're doing good by buying that product. And then once you I think you've got to just take that first step, and once you've realised, actually, I paid a bit more for this, but it's worth it. Or I bought this jumper and it's lasted me 10 years because I love it, and it's just always in trend because it's me. So it's that kind of, changing that ethos around it, and it's not like I'm buying this because it's in fashion, it's going to be out of fashion in 6 months. Which is kind of what we used to do in the olden times before we were all born. It feels like that's what people used to do then. They had a coat for 10 years and they didn't have to
Slightly playing on that, when you look for when you want something because you went.
And it's free.
You're buying sustainably, so therefore you are already better than everyone. I like it.
Sure.
I definitely think it's about communicating the value, the added value, for sure. I cannot get my head around how global economy works works at all. But you know, it's just insane that you can produce something in China for such little money, and you're never going to get something the equivalent in the UK. But you know, if you add on to that, you know, a narrative around the fact that actually this is about paying people a decent wage, and this is about, you know, the environmental impact of shipping those goods. You create a bit of a story and a bit of a brand narrative, I think, that helps to actually sell that product. And you're right as well, the quality is a big thing as well. You know, 3 t-shirts from Primark might last you 6 months, but you buy one from Inland Sea and it'll last you your life.
And you feel better about it. You feel healthy.
Are you in a constant fight that you get in this kind of barrier that's been put up to getting you heard? Because as we all know and understand, there's big multinational companies that will be losing out a lot of money on it. So
yeah, so a lot of stuff that we do is all about behaviour change and how we kind of shift people's perceptions and how we get people to make more sustainable choices, which I guess, you know, it could be an individual, but it could also be, you know, at kind of more decision maker level as well. And it is massively frustrating because you just think like a lot of it is about system change, and that would make all the behaviour change stuff a lot simpler. So I always think of the example of in Copenhagen, everyone gets on a bike and they cycle everywhere. You know, you might ask some people and they'll say it's for environmental reasons. Most people will just say because it's fast and it's convenient and it's easy. You know, that is why they're doing it. So if we had a similar kind of system in the UK where, you know, we have bike lanes, I mean, Manchester is getting there, you know, it's improved a lot, but, you know, we've still got a long way to go. Then if it was fast, convenient and easy, then everyone would do it. But there is an element of frustration to this whole thing about, like, it is about the kind of decision makers and getting them to sort of buy in, because that's where the real change happens. But at the moment, unfortunately, we're not in that position now. So it's about small step changes, and it's about small companies kind of making that and making those choices, responsible choices, and individuals making their voices heard, you know, as a collective rather than just as an individual, because it's much more powerful if you kind of come together in a group, I guess. Yeah.
I guess, like, if you're working with people in the supply chain, or like within a service or product or clients, and they're not necessarily ethical choices or values on front of their mind, I guess, like, what do you do, what can you do that in the past that's worked well to kind of like try and bring them on your wavelength or your way of thinking?
For us, it's just about small nudges. It's not, you know, kind of trying to be too preachy about the whole thing. You know, so when a client's asking us to produce something for an event, we're not going to go out and say, here's like these plastic vinyl banners. You know, actually we're going to suggest something that's going to last them much longer. You know, we've created these crazy like wooden plyboard stands that, you know, are incredibly sustainable and are going to last them, you know, for the next 10 years. And they can be reprinted on inside again. It's, you know, it's small nudges, I think, sometimes to make a big difference. Sometimes it's about being critical friends as well. So where you've got a client who is potentially on the, you know, maybe some of the things they do are sustainable, but some of them are questionable. It's about being that kind of critical voice in the room. So you can often challenge people, because often, you know, bigger companies, you're going to make a bigger difference if you agree to work with them than you are if you're just going to like lobby at them and shout at them, like from the outside.
I think one of the key things is to find out what they're passionate about personally. So a surfer is going to be passionate about saving the ocean. Someone who hikes is going to be passionate about the land. You know, people are passionate about people's rights. So if you can find like the small bit of their passion and then focus on that, because you can't do everything. So it's kind of like working out, right, what do we really care about? Do we want to reduce our waste? Or do we want to actually pay people a fair wage and look at where our products are coming from? And then it's maybe getting them to go, right, let's focus on that bit, and that's like a little small change. And like you say, it's making it approachable and not preachy. And I think if you put your ethos across as like an agency, so I think people get across like, I'm going to be suggesting sustainable options. And I kind of make that clear to them at the start, like everything I'll suggest, it'll be sustainable, and I won't be encouraging you to use plastic or anything like that. And they're going, yeah, that's great, and they're fine with that. And I think the main thing is I'm guessing everyone here is pretty creative. Creativity is the thing that's going to change the world, really. So you can come up with some amazing ideas of, why don't we just like deboss that? We don't have to use any ink, or, you know, why don't we create a stamp and or paint something? So I think it's like just using the creativity and thinking of different ways of doing these things, and can we do it and not post it? Can we do something? deliver it on bike, that's what people are doing, you know. So yeah, just embracing your creativity and looking at it from more of a positive angle, I think always works.
Yeah, sort of going on with what I said before in terms of saving people money. Money's got to be the biggest one. If you can sort of say to a company, actually, this is going to save you money, but not even say it's good for the environment, and just do it for them, I suppose. Like in what I've done like this year in terms of creating that fabric, I've not only created it for my brand, I'm now going to other brands and saying like, you can use this fabric. And so like talking about creativity and creating things like your own little business or whatever that solves a problem like to do with the climate crisis, and then you go to a company and say this will save you money or it'll last longer, like this t-shirt will last a lot longer than that crap t-shirt over there. The big one is money, but also protesting. I like sometimes will say like, I'm sort of against protesting in a way because like we all know that this like the climate crisis is happening, and like protests they do have their purpose and everything, but what I think we need to be doing is creating our own like system and changes, and like these different and just these businesses that we've all, like I said before, it's just the opportunities that are right out in front of us, using nature to create like, you know, vegan burgers and like seaweed. There's no company in the UK that's using seaweed to create a vegan burger, for example. And if I had the energy, and I'd be like, let's go and make one of these because no one else is doing it. Because it's just like, it would be relatively easy. It's like, there you go. There's a business which solves so many problems. I don't know. I think like we have the chance now to do it all ourselves, basically. So, yeah.
Do you think like the way that obviously lockdowns happened and everyone's been a bit more digital has made it easier to be sustainable, green and all that sort of stuff? When you say you're not printing things anymore, people are like not travelling to meetings, blah blah. Do you find the whole space of creativity has changed because of that?
All I'll say on that point is I reckon what like lockdown and the pandemic did was change people's mindsets quite a lot, and like everyone slowed down before it. I think everyone was going a million miles an hour, loads about money, but I think we must have maybe changed everyone, and we feel like maybe there's a bit of a new start. The climate crisis is massively there, and I think like the pandemic sort of brought people together, didn't it, in a crazy way. But I like, for myself, I'm not sure, like in terms of, like everyone stopped flying, but now everyone is flying again, sort of thing. And I don't like for me, there's no shame in that, I don't blame anyone for flying, to be honest, because everyone just but there should be an answer to that, but I don't know, like what you guys.
I think, well, I always sort of used to use Zoom before the pandemic, so for me there wasn't that big change, but it's been great because it's opened other people up to using it and realising they don't need to work with a local design or branding studio. They can choose the person that reflects their values, so it's really exciting. I'm working with a lady in Australia, I've worked with someone in Canada, so it's amazing to work with them and also like learn about what their struggles are and what's going on around the world, but actually feel kind of you're all in it together. So that's been a positive inspiration. I think people have forgotten like the slowing down and there's a crazy amount of cars on the road and that, but actually it's more of the government have got to sort out the public transport. So I think there's a bit of a don't blame the everyday person for driving because they can't get a train and that type of thing. So I think more people now need to just there's a lot of change that needs to happen, but I think a lot of small independent brands have thrived, and because people have gone like, you know what, I don't want to work for someone who doesn't care about the planet anymore, and they don't care about me, and they want me to sit chained at my desk all the time and have no freedom. So I think people are shifting, and people are like demanding, a different way of working and starting up their own businesses. And because of digital, and everyone's quite down on like digital social media stuff, but actually without it, loads of independent businesses wouldn't be able to thrive, and it would just be all these kind of multinational things that we haven't got any choice. So there's obviously positives and negatives, but I think it's been really positive for getting people to just pursue their passions and do things differently and connect with nature, which is making them create businesses that care about nature.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think from our point of view, it's changed the way we operate day to day. So we were very much a 9 to 5 studio. and now we're not. We're kind of, everyone just work whatever suits them best. So from a kind of ethical point of view, that's really positive, I'd say. It makes my life a lot easier. I've got a small son, so it means I can be at home and, picking him up at nursery at 5 o'clock. That would not have been possible pre-pandemic. So yeah, I think that's a real positive change. I also think it's made the choices that we were making anyway as an agency much more socially acceptable. So like you say, all the kind of Zoom calls, whereas historically we might have been expected to be in London for whatever time on a Monday morning, now we can actually just do a Zoom call. And when we're being asked to film in places, we can actually kind of just ask the client, what's a responsible choice here, Do you want to fly us out to this crazy location, as much as I would love to go there, or should we employ like a local crew? And it just makes those kind of conversations much easier. It's stuff that we would have been doing already, but I think and I hope it's kind of spreading across all agencies really.
How do you apply the kind of ethical values and principles in that kind of circular economy to maybe technology and the marketing, like any digital tools or websites or social media, and is there a way of applying that?
I've got a great friend who he designs websites, but he's just like carbon positive. So it's kind of like using less imagery, SVGs, if anyone knows all that. So think about that, but also not putting just loads of stuff out there for the sake of it. So actually, people just like, I've got to post on Instagram every day or that, but it's actually like, no, putting stuff out there that means something. So instead of having to put out loads of blogs and that, but reducing the amount of kind of digital stuff you're putting into the place actually makes a big difference. Digitally wise, isn't it?
Uses a lot of data on this.
Data, and then the power it uses. Maybe not using your phone as much would make a big difference. So I don't actually have apps on my phone really, trying to be really good with it, and kind of do that type of thing. I would love to get a solar panel on my camper van and then I can be full on, but I'm not got there yet. But little things like that I think can help. So solar would be good. So if you kind of follow that. I mean, try and use ethical suppliers. Banking and things like that. You can do little things, digital banking, so everything paperless. I don't print anything unless it's for actual printing stuff, and none of my clients will never get them to print stuff. So it's getting them to use things like that. And then iPad, I've got Procreate, so you can draw stuff and do it quite easily, and you're not using any paper really for that. I do still use notepads, but go once.
It is definitely thinking about suppliers for sure. And a lot of people don't even think about kind of digital waste, do they? It's just insane how much kind of energy that actually uses. Working for an agency who's been around for 20 years, we've got 20 years worth of projects like stored somewhere. We need to do something about that. That's probably, I'll take that home with me. I need to do that. Delete everything from the past 15 years. There is that side of it, but there is also about, again, just always asking if there's something more ethical or more responsible that you could be doing in response to a brief. So we had this, we did a thing called 10 Years to Save the World, which was like a collaboration with comic artists in the Philippines and in the UK. And the exhibition launched last year, but we had this vinyl covering in Media City. And the easiest thing to do would have just been to go with our usual suppliers and just do this plastic vinyl application onto the whole of the glass front of Media City BBC building. But we're like, that doesn't feel very sustainable, and this is all about climate change. We can do better than this. So sometimes it's about taking a bit of a risk actually, and a lot of it is about client confidence and client trust as well. But if you've got a good relationship, together you can actually do something really positive. So we use this eco-friendly vinyl, and the quality was just as good. The results were amazing. It was a bit of a risk, but sometimes I think it's just about always asking yourself what's next, what's new, because you never know what's around the corner. People will be producing things from seaweed before you know it.
I just wondered from I'm here, obviously all these people are very keen and ethical, but most of my friends, people I know, aren't on that journey, and as much as I can try, your ASOS, your Amazon, all these are cheaper, they're just obsessed with them. What advice would you give for us to start helping others start using small businesses and things?
Yeah, it's a really good question, and I think it comes back to that behaviour change again. And I think it's hard. I think some people are never going to change. We always like to kind of use the Jeremy Clarkson model. When you're talking about trying to get people on a bike, you're never going to persuade Jeremy Clarkson to kind of get on a bike and leave his car behind, but you don't want to be talking to him because he's never going to change. So some of your friends might never change, but it's about finding those friends who will, and starting to have those conversations. We work with a lot of young people. We're running a climate change campaign at the moment with the Eden Project, or it's about to launch, and they're wanting to talk to young people about the climate crisis. And we're finding more and more that young people, they're really motivated, but they just don't know where to start. They're like, it's overwhelming, the amount of information that's out there. So sometimes it's about cutting through the noise and actually, explaining things in a really kind of simple, relatable way as well. It's no good me talking to them because I don't know what their interests are. So I mean, we've got with the Eden campaign, we're exploring working with a series of influencers, and using platforms that we've never used before because it's a completely different audience that we don't necessarily understand.
Yeah, no, it's tough. I think the main thing is, don't try and kind of force it on people. Just, you express your passion for certain things, and if they get on board with it, they might do. And it might be one little thing. You might, in a year or so, they might go, hey, And I think the problem is a lot of products have got to be as good or better than the ones that they're using if they don't care about the environment. And I think that's a bit of the challenge, that the ethical, certainly 5 or so years ago the shampoos weren't as good as, but now that they're loads better. So I think that's the challenge with them moving over to the mainstream. And I think clothing's doing it already, people are now realising, yes, I'm going to move from that to that. But yeah, it's kind of, they want it, and it's that education that they're going to actually, they're not going to be able to buy that stuff with that cheap. But yeah, just focus on you and spreading it around. Start a blog.
You could do the opposite of greenwashing and say, because things like polyester is really bad for you when you wear it. There's various studies, it potentially could be carcinogenic, and don't quote me on that. But it's at the end of the day, polyester is made out of petrochemicals. It's a horrible material that you put on your skin, and it causes, if anyone wears it for sports, it's it stinks. It's it goes all hard. It's horrible. And then so you can say to your mates would you prefer to wear this horrible polyester stuff, or would you prefer to wear this nice CBD stuff that's actually good for you? And it's it's a no-brainer, and then it costs you £5 more or something, and then it lasts forever as well. So I think the biggest thing that's resonated that I found from doing all this is that exactly what when you guys your age picked up about the t-shirt has health benefits. It's straight away, as soon as you say, actually, this clothing is good for you when you wear it, it's the big thing that seems to connect with people. Whereas if you go along and say, this will help solve the climate crisis, or it's people just don't want to hear that. It's just, so yeah, I'll probably just say scare them and say, polyester's gonna kill you. So wear this instead.
Let's end on one top tip you can give us to kind of be more ethical.
Am I allowed to?
Go for it.
Collaborate, I think, is the first one. Because great ideas come from collaboration. Great change comes from collaboration. That would be top tip number 1. Top tip number 2, this is a bugbear of mine, and I see my friend Jacob over there. Me and Jacob worked on a campaign many moons ago when I used to work at Creative Concern, and it was all about recycling plastics and things, but recycling plastics in the bathroom. Nobody recycles plastics in the bathroom because it's too far to take it to the recycling bin. So everyone recycle your plastics in your bathroom.
That's great. Yeah, I will. I'll do that now. Thank you.
I've got there's an amazing zero waste shop where we are underneath our shop and things. So I think at least it's really hard. I myself find it even hard to use that shop, but supermarket shops just swap out something don't buy shampoo and shampoo bottle or whatever. Just make a little tiny change if you can. It's those little changes help no matter what, and then it sort of gets you into the mindset of doing it differently. It's all mindset really, I think, slowly changing habits.
I think if you're buying something, just put a little bit more thought, and can you find a small independent business that's local to you that you can support? Because I think that's the thing. It's like really looking at the people. I live in Stockport, so there's some amazing people doing some really inspiring things there. So make the extra effort. I know it's easy to just click buy online, but instead, like I've messaged a woman on Instagram and she's making me some a hat and some gloves. And it's taken a little bit more effort, but I'm being patient and I really care about that. So that would be number 1 tip. And number 2 tip, I'm a nature lover, so it's always like thinking about nature and go and be in nature more if you can, because I think the more time you spend in nature, we've got amazing like that Mayfield Park, even if you're in the city, there's things like that going on, because then you'll realise there's not as many trees in Manchester, we need some more trees, or we need peat over there, so there's all little things like that around. I know you're not a big fan of trees, but we need more trees in Manchester.
Thank you very much. Well, that's been a fantastic panel discussion. They've given us loads of insight. Give us a round of applause.